everybody to our October meeting, our fall meeting for the Arizona Chapter of Women in GIS. I'm Jamie Dennis. I'm the co-founder along with Priyanka Miller of the Arizona Chapter. We're really excited to have you guys here. It's great to see we have a couple of men here as well. We want to make sure this is all inclusive. It's not even despite the name, we welcome anyone to these meetings. So we're real excited today for our guest speakers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Priyanka, who's going to introduce them for you and get things rolling. So Priyanka, off to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I am Priyanka Miller. I am the owner of Nil Geospatial LLC. And today, this is a super exciting meeting for us because we have with us Eva Reid and Karen Fisher, and they both are our presenters today. So I'm going to start with introducing Eva. She has her video on, so Eva, you can wave to us so we know you're there. All right, so with great pleasure, I introduce you to Eva Reid. Eva is a senior analyst in the geospatial technologies in the local government in the DC metro area. She also runs her own consulting business representing women in tech and other fields where women are underrepresented. Eva is also an author of a number of articles on technology and professional development in technology. Her work has appeared on various magazines, including Directions magazine. So thank you for your time, Eva, and welcome. Karen, you can wave, you're next. Karen Fisher is a GIS developer and a product owner within the university technology office at ASU. She's passionate about developing GIS solutions to improve workflows and assist people with geospatial analysis. She is also the architect of ASU's GIS infrastructure and develops applications for ASU's administration staff. Prior to coming to ASU, she worked at the Arizona Department of Water Resources for 15 years as a GIS developer and a hydrologist. When she isn't working, she enjoys trail running, jigsaw puzzles, and building villages with Legos. You and my kids both love doing that. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eva. Go ahead, Eva, take it away.
Great, thank you. I am so excited to be here today. I was I think I posted this on LinkedIn yesterday. I'm so thrilled because Arizona, I lived in Arizona for 10 years. Many people here I know from either that time or other events that I've done in Arizona. And I just really appreciate being, continued to be welcome in the community. So thank you, everyone. I am going to talk today about self-advocacy. And well, I'm going to talk about what it is and the myths that we sort of cling to about self-advocacy and how to really get rid of those myths, how to kill them. So I like to organize this conversation in sort of a story form. And in my thought process, this is our journey, not just my journey, but our journey to a better career experience. So we might be having a good career experience or a wonderful career experience, but it can be better. And one of the ways that we do that is through self-advocacy. So I'm going to begin not by describing what self-advocacy is, but by telling a story. And this story is my story. It is, well, I'll just say it is my story. I'm the operations manager for a major project in my organization. And it means that I spend a lot of time doing things like writing documentation, herding cats, drowning in email. And every year it is up to me to basically make this project happen. And as part of that, I make sure that the application is working and that everyone knows what their role is and how to do what they need to do. The one piece of this that I don't do is the final report. So I do everything up to the final report, including making sure the data are clean and usable. But the report is written by someone else. And we do this every year. We do the same thing every year. We describe the activities of the project, how well we did, that sort of thing. And the first year that we did this, which was 2017, 2018, it was a huge success despite a lot of challenges that we experienced in the beginning, including a lot of broken parts of the application. I basically came in the middle of the project and had to fix everything that existed already and make it work for the year. So again, it was extremely successful at the end. It wasn't perfect by any means, but my boss gave me really glowing thanks in our end of the year meeting. So that was great. But I actually went to go read the final report, and as I mentioned, that was the only piece of the project that was not under my purview. When I read the report, I was like, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. Kept reading, got to the end where all the people involved in the project were listed by their role in the project, and my name was nowhere to be found on the list. I was not credited for any of the work that I had done for the entire year. My male boss was credited. My database manager, also a man, was credited. Application developers were credited. I wasn't anywhere on that list. And so I was upset, and then had this thought to myself, well, maybe I'm just missing something. So I asked one of my colleagues, I said, hey, do you see what I see? Am I just missing something? And he said, no, I don't see your name here anywhere. And by the end of that conversation, I was really angry, and I decided to take a walk, calm myself down, walk around the block, made it a very long block. And I came back to the office and I said, all right, what am I going to do about this? So I printed out the credits page, that last page of the report, and I walked into my manager's office and slid the page across the desk and said, this needs to be fixed. So it's perhaps a bit of hyperbole, but after speaking up and using my voice, I felt so much better. I did the basic, I did not receive what I should have received, and I'm speaking up. And advocating for myself was so scary, so scary. I can't even tell you, imagine like the scariest thing you can think of, barring like death. And I was there. Heart sweats, heart palpitations, the whole 9 yards. But it was also kind of thrilling. No one else had spoken up for me, but I did it for myself. I spoke up. I had to practice a little bit before I went into that office. And quite frankly, that was the last day of the rest of my career. So I'm going to pose a question to all of you. We heard earlier this year a lot about Simone Biles and how she took herself out of several of the Olympic competitions for her own well-being. And I really look at that as a form of self-advocacy. So I'm going to ask all of you, do you self-advocate, and how do you do it? And I'd love to have everyone post their thoughts in the chat. If you can think of a time when you advocated for yourself, let us know. I'll give you a minute or so to do that. I know all of you have some ideas about how you've done this. So I'm gonna give you a prompt here. And I'm going to say that self-advocacy is speaking or acting on your own behalf. So can you think of a time where you have spoken up or you've acted in your own interest, on your own behalf, when someone else maybe didn't do it for you? And it's amazing, isn't it, Lisa, how speaking up for yourself can just be the scariest thing ever. We are not encouraged to do it. So I want you to continue thinking about when you have advocated for yourself. And I'm going to share my 5 myths. Now, certainly there are more, but the top 5 that I really find myself and I see other people dealing with. The story that I just told you was one of the many times that I've had a challenge and that I've either had to do something about it or let it go. It's really unpleasant to have to make that decision. And unfortunately, it happens a lot. I felt like I had this opportunity. It spurred me to think about what I did and how it helped me. And not everyone decides on the F it attitude that I chose that day. So here are my 5 myths. And as I like to say, the things I learned the hard way so you don't have to. And things that will really help move the needle forward for you. Number 1, other people are going to stand up for me. The reality is that they don't, generally speaking. There are people that do, but for the most part, they don't. Assume that you are on your own and that you have to find a way to speak up for yourself. One of the ways that I do this is I have created a team. And when I say team, I don't mean necessarily anyone that I work with. I've created a group of people or a community that does have my back and that will stand up for me. And sometimes that is just saying after the fact, hey, you did a great job. You did what you needed to do, and we support you. Number 2, the myth that if you can't do it yourself, somehow you are not doing a good job. You know what? That is the worst. The idea that if you can't do it yourself means you're not worthy is ridiculous. And to be quite honest, there is no shame. There is no shame in asking for or even paying for help. One of the things that I've had to learn having a second job outside of my main job is that I needed support. I needed someone to do some of the very basic tasks like scheduling meetings and, sending some basic emails to clients. And I hired a VA for that because there was no way that I could do it. There just were not enough hours in the day. I also like to say that there is really nothing that we do that isn't somehow connected to somebody else. So you should really reach out for support, get comfortable asking for it because it's really hard. A lot of us, especially those of us who are introverted, at least partially, have a hard time asking for help. So practice asking for help. And once you've practiced it and once you've started to do it, you will do it all the time and you won't even think about it anymore. Consider when you are working on a project, advocating for yourself in terms of asking for reasonable timelines. We are often given projects and told this needed to be done yesterday. Well, that's fine, but how long do I really have to work on this? And the answer can't always be, it needs to be done in an hour. There are times when that is not possible. So when you can't do it all yourself, and when you realize that you can't do it all yourself, that will take you to the next level of your career. Delegating and getting comfortable with asking for support can really up-level your career. The idea that asking questions makes you a lesser employee or less than someone else is ridiculous. A lot of us work in a culture that does not encourage asking questions. It's super uncomfortable. We really need to work on changing that culture and questioning why our culture is this way. We weren't born knowing all the things, and there is no one that shows up on day one at their new job knowing all of what they need to do. We don't know where the HR forms are. We don't necessarily know where the bathroom is. I'm sure that you started a new job, you had to find out where the bathrooms were. Where's the kitchen? Where can I go, put my stuff in the refrigerator for lunch? You had to ask someone. So get comfortable with asking questions, and let's work together to build a culture around asking questions and gaining knowledge. Number 4, if you don't know how to do it, you're not capable. Absolutely not true. Knowing how and being capable of are two very different things. We are all capable of more than we currently know and more than we think we can do. We all have the capacity to learn. And we have to remember that a toddler does not know how to lead a country, at least not yet. But that toddler is absolutely capable of doing so. I'm capable of programming, but I don't really know how, and I don't really want to learn how. This is a skill that I choose to delegate to other people. Myth number 5, and probably the biggest myth that we need to kill, is the idea that we are just lucky. This is the biggest imposter syndrome lie that we tell ourselves at work, at home, wherever. I do it all the time. I say things like, oh, I was just in the right place at the right time, or something in that vein. And honestly, no, we make our own luck. If you know what you want and you know where you want to be, what milestones you want to achieve, and how you want to feel, that is part of making your luck. So self-advocacy is speaking on your own behalf, but it's also about actively building your community or your team. And I will put team in quotes, because this can be folks that you work with, it can be your family, it can be friends. But build that team that will support you when you aren't feeling supported in some aspect of your life. Be active about all of this and participate in your own career direction. Reasons why we don't self-advocate. Number 1, it's exhausting. If you're not self-advocating, you're not alone. You can see in the chat, lots of us are uncomfortable with this. We tell ourselves stories about what it is and why we're not self-advocating. Oh, it's not the right time, or it's not the right place. Well, certainly you need to consider that, but don't not do it because you've decided for yourself that it's not the right time. Talk to your team. People who identify as women are generally expected to be more modest than men, and therefore we are not what's the word I'm looking for? We're not incentivized to self-advocate. We do it, and then we have this trap. It's some of you may know the likability trap. We have this situation where we end up, we're told that, oh, you really need to self-advocate, so we do, and then we end up feeling or actually not being liked as much as the person who is modest. And our advocacy as women, our self-advocacy in particular, is seen as excessive compared to the same self-advocacy that men do all the time. We are great at advocating for others, but we don't advocate for ourselves. And I think the expectation should be that we advocate for ourselves and advocate for other people, but there needs to be a better balance. Again, the likability trap. We don't self-promote because we end up in this situation where we are evaluated higher in terms of performance, but then our likability is less than other people who are not self-promoting. And it's crazy because anyone else, we would look at them and say, oh, that's great. They're promoting themselves. They're tooting their own horn. But we have this strange sort of netherworld that we exist in as women, and we don't get the same treatment as everyone else. We are told to be agreeable and nice, but then we're considered less competent. And honestly, it goes back to that idea of that I mentioned earlier about being exhausted. We can't do all of these things at the same time. It just does not work. So we don't do it because it's perceived as negative. We're bossy, we're opinionated, we're pushy, whatever. So I was going to ask, or I am asking everyone, what's an adjective that you've heard used? What is that adjective when you promote yourself or you are aggressive in some way? What is the word that you've heard? Yep, bossy for sure. Yeah, overbearing's another one, and intimidating. Oh my gosh, I get that one all the time. It really bothers me because I don't see it. I think I am a strong personality, but I don't think it surprises me when I hear people say I'm intimidating, and I don't feel very good about it. Oh yes, all of these words. I would venture to guess that most women in particular, and I want to make it clear that I think that this happens for men as well, but it happens so much more often for women. I think it's really important to recognize these words and actually, call them out when they're used. Like, am I really intimidating? What is it actually that you're thinking that I'm doing? So your homework is to use your voice. Speak up when you can, and speak up for yourself. Continue to speak up for other people. I want to make sure that that's clear and that we're doing that, but I also want you to use your voice for yourself. Build that team that I talked about. Ask questions. Do not be shamed into not asking, because the reality is that if you don't ask the question, there is a chance that later it will come back to haunt you and it will not be pretty. So build that culture of asking questions. Remind yourself that you are capable of all things. It just might be that you don't want to do it, and that is fine. And finally, make your own luck. Work hard, advocate for yourself, and do your business. I want to thank everyone for hearing me today, not just listening, but hearing me. I would love to, and I'm excited to go back and read the chat because I couldn't read the chat while I was talking, but I'm excited to read the chat and see all of the ways in which you are doing this already. And I'd like you to think about and maybe post in the chat one thing that you are going to do in the future to advocate for yourself. One of the pieces to the building community part is to connect with other people who are both like you and not like you. And one of the ways that I've been doing this a lot lately is through LinkedIn. So I encourage you to find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. If you search for Eva Reid, you will see my picture there. I encourage you to connect with me, connect with my website. I've got a lot of really great resources on there, some books that you can take a look at that will help you in your process of developing your self-advocacy muscles. And I would encourage you to post your LinkedIn in the chat so that other folks in the group can connect with you as well. So thank you again, Jamie and Priyanka, for having me. Thanks to all of you who are here today to hear what I have to say. And I am going to pass the baton on to Karen, who is going to talk about her experience. And Karen, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Eva. That was a great presentation. I learned a lot from you.
Great.
Let me see here. Go into presentation. Can you see my screen okay? Everything go okay?
Perfect.
All right, thanks. So I'm Karen Fisher. I am a GIS developer and product owner at ASU in the technology office there. And today I'm very excited to share my journey on self-advocacy with you. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit on why I feel self-advocacy is important and why I think knowing yourself is an important part of self-advocacy. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about my failures and common problems and strategies I've used to overcome them, and then wrap it up with some key takeaways. So first, I encourage you all to think about why you want to learn self-advocacy and why you feel it's important for you. Some of the reasons I feel it's really important is for career advancement. And this might not just be about getting that next promotion, but it might be just getting that next task that you want. Like if you've been wanting to have this role in a project, you need to advocate for yourself so that you can receive that. It helps solve issues. You need to advocate to let people know what your problems are, whether it's with a colleague or just a work problem in order for that to be solved. Safety, this can be from ensuring that you don't get overworked by letting people know that, like I've seen in the chat quite a bit, like this is, I don't have time to do this today and things like that. Or even just to ensure that your rights aren't violated. And then finally, it improves your confidence. So I feel it's really important to know who you are in order to start your self-advocacy road. When I was getting ready for this presentation, I tried reflecting a lot on where I started at and where I'm at now. And I realized growing up in rural America where gender roles were very traditional there had a huge impact on me. I was rewarded for being quiet and getting my work done. And no one was encouraged to speak to authority figures. You're just supposed to listen. And I didn't have any role models that were advocates. And so I remember when I first got to college and I saw students talking to the professors and asking for help and even asking to get better grades on their tests, I was just completely floored. Like this was not something I was familiar with at all. So you can fast forward until I was in the workplace, and this self-advocacy was something that I was really going to struggle at. So I promise you I've made every failure possible in self-advocacy. And however, I'm a good problem solver. So today I'm hoping I can share some of the strategies that I've found that have worked for me. So I'm going to start with what I'm calling some failures. So first, I honestly thought that my work would speak for itself. When I started off at my first position, I was an entry-level hydrologist, and I started at the same time as another really great colleague of mine. And I remember thinking, it's not who I know, it's what I know. So I, sat at my desk and I would just, try to work as hard as I possibly could and double time through my data entry and try to work ahead on all the projects. And, during lunch breaks, I would teach myself Microsoft Access and GIS. And granted, in the long run, all of this really paid off for me. But in the short term, when that first new job opening for the first promotion opened up, I wasn't even considered. And I very quickly realized that it was because nobody knew what I was doing. I mean, I was working hard, I did all this stuff, but no one knew if it was me who did it, and because I wasn't telling anybody. So I found a very helpful strategy for this is to have that elevator speech. And we've all heard this, I'm sure, about having that 1 or 2 minutes speech that talks about what you do. And I'm horrible at this. It's not natural for me to talk about myself. So I turned this into telling a story. This is the problem that was presented to me, and this is the solution I've come up with to solve it. And this helps me a lot because I don't feel like it's focusing on me, and it's helped me get through these very easily. And then I always have 3 elevator speeches on hand. So I have the what I've accomplished recently. And then I always have the what fun project am I working on, or what fun task, because I always exuberate a lot of energy and excitement when I talk about it. And I feel that's really important in your little speeches about yourself. And then finally, I always have something about my vision and goals. And this is usually about like my own personal career goals, but also, so when I talk to other business units and things, I know what kind of goals I feel they could use GIS for. So it's having those messages ready and on hand. My next one is the imposter syndrome. How many of you have felt this way, where you're thinking, how did I get this job? Am I really good enough for it? Did my project, is it really what they were expecting? Is it good enough? Are you sure I should be at this meeting? I have felt this so many times, whether it is the first day at a new position or the first time you're in that meeting with some executives, or even this week getting ready for this presentation. Really, self-advocacy is, are you sure you want me to talk about this? But I always end up doing the same type of a strategy. So I quickly realized that I'm just, talking, this is bad talk. And then I remember all of my past successes. So this helps, like I sometimes have to write them down. Sometimes I just walk through like, oh, you've done these other things. And this is why you're there. This is why they've asked you to the meeting. This is why you got this position. So I feel that's the first step in it. And the other strategy I have is I feel like just being honest and confident in everything will really help you get through this. A lot of times in project meetings, for instance, and they might, they'll say at the end, so do you think this is possible? And you have that immediate, feeling of, can I do this? But really, I always just answer, yes, of course it's possible. But I might never have done step C. So I'm just honest. I haven't done this part before. I know I can do it. And if I see any issues, I'll let you know right away. And that sets up the self-advocacy platform so they know that if you need extra resources or extra time, you've already told them right up front. My next failure I'd like to talk about is avoiding attention. And a lot of this is just because I'm an introvert. It's very common, but it's you get done with a project and someone's like, that was a great job you did in the project. And you're like, oh, it's nothing. Or, oh, it was the team really, it wasn't me. And this is really a miss on a missed opportunity. And so I have a few strategies to help you through this if you're like that. One is just have your predetermined thank you that you practice. Like, thank you, I really appreciate it. And maybe just kind of go off into your elevator speech. My favorite part of working on that was this. And it's helping advocate that you earned that praise. And if you do really struggle with this, one thing I've done is practice complimenting others. Not only is it great for, to spread some compliments and makes other people feel good, but there's some really good models out there. Some people are great at receiving this, and they will teach you by modeling how they express their gratitude. And my final failure to talk about today is not sharing your goals. I don't know about you, but I am very goal orientated. So ever since I was little, I would create goals. I would write them down and review them and work towards them. And this has always worked well for me. But I discovered later in my career, not that long ago, that I wasn't sharing my goals with anyone else. And so I was not aligning with management or other business groups on what I saw as happening. So people were surprised. Oh, I didn't know you wanted to work on that project, or I didn't know that was an idea that you had. And it was a huge failure on my part. So when I got into my current role, I knew this about myself, and I strived really hard from the beginning to ensure I was communicating them. So I continue to have my goals, and then in my one-on-ones, or my annual reviews, I make sure I communicate them where I have made progress on them and where I want to go. And that's not just for myself career goals, but it's also where I want the projects to go, or where I want GIS as a system to be heading. And this really helps align and move things along faster. So good strategies for this is to know exactly what you want. So that's, creating those goals, review them at a good frequency, and ensure you do communicate them to everyone. So a little bit about my failures. I kind of want to jump into a few problems that I often encounter as being a GIS professional. And so I wanted to speak to some of the strategies I do for handling those. So first, I find myself continuously advocating that GIS is a part of IT. I don't know if this is common for everyone or if it's just something that I seem to stumble into, but what most GIS, or at worst, most GIS professionals, or excuse me, IT professionals think GIS is just drawing on a map with some crayons, and at best, it's hitting the easy button where you just pushing a couple buttons and there's a wonderful map application. And so I really struggled with this to earn my voice at meetings, and that I should have a say on how technology is. And so what I've found for good strategies with this is just to be very transparent. I have excellent documentations and make sure I have all my architecture diagrams together, my ERDs and data dictionaries, and I share them. And I try to find time to spend with different people in the different professions, like network people or security people, and kind of go through what I'm doing so that's transparent. And they can see then that you do deserve a seat at the table. And the other thing is you make sure you have the jargon down so that you are communicating properly with them. Another problem I have often is resources. I seem to end up as a one-person GIS group a lot of times, and I feel buried under work. And so I needed to advocate to get more resources or slow down the incoming work. So I'm going to tell a little failure story about this. I decided I needed to advocate this at a previous position, and I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get my message across? And so I was like, I'm a data person. I'm going to analyze this. And so I collected data for a year and how much time I spent on administration work and how much time I spent on the architecture and how much time I spent on projects. And then I roadmapped out on how much time I was going to need to spend for the next year on everything that was already in the queue. And showed how I desperately needed resources. And I created a little presentation to wrap around it. And I had a new CIO. And so I got some time with him and, deep dived into how complicated, GIS is and went through all this data. And at the end of it, he was completely glazed over. I missed the mark completely. And so I left knowing I failed and I wasn't going to get any more resources. And then I went and talked to a couple of colleagues of mine who were great communicators and asked them for some help. And they sat down with me and they helped me focus, like, what is it exactly that you want? They explained to me that the person I'm speaking to does not care about data. That is not how I should be communicating with them. And they helped me retailer my message. And then I revamped it all and I went back in and I was able to give a better presentation of what I needed and how it was going to benefit everyone. And I ended up getting my resources. It's a process, but when you do find these stumbling blocks, make sure you do reach out to get some help. And my very final story of today is being overshadowed. Now, whether it is being overshadowed in a meeting or what I'm going to talk about today is being overshadowed on a team. And I like this little Antonym picture with the pigeons because he says you need to illuminate and light up. And I feel this is very true. We all can shine. And so it's finding out what you do really well and focusing in on it. And this can be advocating to get that task on that project that you know you want to shine on, or even if you have that ability to do a whole proof of concept yourself, have that single project for you. Advocate to ask if can you do this little 70% type of a project just to show a concept of an idea you have, and then whatever it is, market it, let people know about it. You know, use that as your elevator speech and show it off to your peers, to business units, and really generate that you do light things up. So with that, I'd like to talk about a few key takeaways that I feel are really important for self-advocacy. The first one is the 5 W's. So that's knowing who you're talking to, the type of a communicator they are, knowing what exactly you want, whether it's more resources or whether it's just a seat at the table. Know when you're going to do, so have those time frames for check-ins, and know why. Make sure you can communicate how this is going to align to your company's goals. And then after you kind of know your 5 W's, you're going to need face time to advocate. And so it's kind of difficult if you're still in a virtual environment, but you can schedule some 15-minute one-on-ones with people that you need to be connecting with. Sometimes just even a group coffees are a great way to get this face time. And then if you are in person, make sure you're finding those times where you can talk to people that are important for connections. And practice. I know Eva talked about this too. Practice is what we really just need to work on it. If you're not good at elevator speeches, you know, practice with your friends and your colleagues. Even the strangers you meet, everyone always asks, so what is it that you do? And just keep practicing, and eventually it'll come more naturally. Having allies is important. And this is the people I'm talking about are the ones that are genuine relationships. They don't have to just be GIS people. They could be in other business groups, but they're very important on building your network. And it's important for you to also speak up for them and help model what advocacy is. You can grow together. Mentors, like my stories, mentors have helped me troubleshoot almost all my problems. So it's really good to have those both as GIS mentors, but also for your soft skills. And then having confidence. If you need to create that list of things to help that you've done successfully, your strengths, keep that with you and remember it frequently. And then finally, just be you. You guys are all worthy of where you are, and you need to have your voice heard. With that, I appreciate all the time that you guys have given us, and I am going to open it up to questions for both Eva and I.
So if you guys have any questions, just pop them there into the chat. Or if you want to use the raise your hand feature here on Zoom, we can maybe we can call on you that way, and you can just unmute, and one of the Karen or Eva can call on you, and you can unmute and ask your question. So to raise your hand, you click the little, I think it's the reactions icon on the bottom. Oops, I muted myself in the middle of that. There's some great conversations going on in the chat there.
I love the quote that Karen posted. If you want to keep on learning, you must continue, or you must keep on risking failure all your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I see we have a question from Shay. Shay, you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? To make sure you let us know who it's for, Eva or Karen.
Well, it's for both of them. So I have found the hardest part of actual advocacy is not sounding like a bragger. For me, only for me. So, well, I'm not, yeah, anyway. So I loved Karen's idea of when someone says, great job, yes, I will always go to self-deprecation, which is funny, but doesn't really get you the promotion. And yes, Eva, I know you will too. So I loved Karen's how I just need to learn to say thank you. And then I can definitely go on about I loved being a part of this because like that is a great way to recognize it and keep going. So that is a huge strategy for me. Are there other helpful strategies for or the even valuable for not waiting for someone to compliment, for you taking that first? Maybe you're in a meeting and you hear someone else talking about even that great project that they did, and you're like, that was me. So even not trying to steal thunder, but not just more. I love the thank you. And I'm greedy. I want more. What other ways can I initiate self-advocacy?
Oh, Shay, you've just like you've commented on so many different things that feed into the feeling like you're bragging. And I this is not a strategy necessarily, but I think it's really important for all of us. I think anyone on this call, more than likely, we just really have to get comfortable with saying I did a good job on this or I did this. And it's really just practicing it and doing it. And maybe start by doing it in a group that you feel comfortable with. I mean, Shay, like if it were you and me sitting down together, like you would absolutely say I did I did this thing, right? And I think it's about sort of exercising that muscle and flexing that muscle and really just getting comfortable with hearing it. Because I think that's part of why we don't do is we hear it. And I forget who it was now, but I responded to someone in the chat who was saying, I'm working really hard on doing this and, not feeling like I'm being prideful. And I think we to some degree have to remember that for most everyone here, I mean, anybody that I know here is not being prideful. You're being proud of what you do, and you would have to try so hard to be prideful. So I think part of it is just doing it, finding things that you feel comfortable to start with and doing it and saying, I'm good at this and I did this, or, whatever the comment is, but just get comfortable with hearing it. I think that's, for me, that's the best thing that I can suggest.
I agree. And I had also mentioned I don't like talking about myself, so I just turn it into talking about my problem solution. So it doesn't feel me. It's still me. It was my problem and my solution I solved, but that little switch in my brain helps me not feel focused on me.
Yeah. I think it is important though to use the word I. Like if you have to switch it to the problem solution, but I did this to achieve this.
Yes,
it's hard though. Like I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to be flip about it. Like it is hard. And Karen, I just wanted to say, like, related to this, I did not grow up in the Midwest, but I grew up with Midwestern. One of my parents is from the Midwest, and that was such a thing. And honestly, I don't even think it's not just a Midwest thing, but we're just not trained to. I just really felt you in that moment when you were saying that. And yes, I really like what Margaret has to say about bragging and bringing it up an accomplishment come from two different emotional places. I think that's very true. And I think we really need to, it's kind of about getting comfortable with yourself and understanding yourself and what those emotions are that are connected with whatever it is that you're saying or trying to say.
And Linda, I like what you're saying about the team approach, that everyone share their successes and increase that comfort. So everyone gets that practice. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I love that. Because I think it is. It's about comfort. It's not that we don't know that we did it. It's about the comfort level that we have with talking about it. And as I said in my talk, you know, there are consequences sometimes of, you know, saying I did this and I'm good at it. And I think just recognizing that there are consequences and saying, all right, am I okay with this? And I mean, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the consequences. And not everyone's there, but you know, there is a balance. There's and that feeds into the comfort level, I think. And we may just not be aware of what is happening.
Are there any more questions? Jay, your hand's still up, but I assume it's just because you didn't drop it back down.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything before we jump into breakout rooms?
We have another question, and I thought, Jamie, let me know if you're cool with this. I thought we would do this as kind of a group thing, like large group, and we're going to use the chat a little bit, and then I'm going to ask some folks to give us a little more detail on how they are responding. So the question is, what is your self-advocacy superpower? And I'm going to ask everyone to think about that for a minute. When you think about what your superpower is, post that in the chat so everyone can see.
I'm loving these.
I know, me too. I'm just like, this is awesome. One of the reasons and keep posting, one of the reasons I thought about doing this, and it was kind of a little bit of spur of the moment, but not entirely. I think it's really helpful for each of us, for all of us, to see what other people are doing. And it's part of why we asked the question. But I wanted everyone to kind of see everyone's thoughts about this. And I didn't want to limit it to 5 folks. So I love that people are asking questions. High five for the asking questions. Love it. So many good thoughts. This is awesome. I love it. Yeah, the fake it till you make it thing is pretty, yeah. It's a good one. I like that. Yeah, learning from others is a good one. I like that. All right, so keep posting if you haven't posted yet. And it's okay to post something that's already been posted. This is not like you have to come up with a, you know, special something new. I think I really want, you know, pick someone else's if you can't think of something. But yeah, Jamie, I actually was asking from the side. Jen, would you take a minute or so to talk about your superpower? Tell us what it is, because it's like up in the chat. Tell us what your superpower is, and
so I put a couple of them in there, so let me know which ones you want to
oh, the
expand
Adam
on.
Carno thing.
The Adam Carno, okay, cool. So the Adam Carno thing, it's something he posted on LinkedIn, and it was just a quick little video, and he talked for maybe about 45 seconds about this thing he called a solution map. And so I took some notes, and then I looked it up and found what he was talking about. And I just used this week, and it went over really well. I don't know if you guys ever have the experience of going like in a group, a big meeting or something like that, going, oh, GIS can do that. Or, and just, always throwing out there, oh yeah, we can totally do that. Or I have something for you. Well, a lot of times people are like, great, or they don't understand how or whatever. And so his thing was that the solution map is a really quick outline of the problem and maybe its cause and what negative impact is happening because of it. And then the solution is, how you're going to solve this, what the positive outcome could be from it. And then like, if you need something like a schedule or a budget or the team or something like that, if I can share my screen for just a second, I can show you exactly what I showed them. Oops. Maybe, nope, it's disabled.
Oh, yeah, it probably is. I'm not sure if.
Try again. I think I just enabled it.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Okay. Woo. Okay, there we go. You should see something that says donations, dedications, and memorials. So I wanted to talk about this and how we're doing this, and it's gotten very complicated. And whoops, and so there's one slide that is, this is the problem. This thing is taking us a lot of time. Why? Because it's very popular. What's the negative impact? And then the solution. We're going to predetermine these locations. We're going to make a map for it. People will be able to select things on the map. What do I need? I need a team of people. I need to do some data collection. I need to get public access information on the map and stuff like that. And then I just had a couple of examples and, a little blurb saying like this, but a little bit better. And, we'll put our own spin on it. And that went so much better than me just saying, hey guys, I want to do this thing with a map and our benches, And so now I think this has become my thing. Now I'm going to use this every time I see an issue that, yes, GIS can save the world. And I think that really helps communicate to the group better than I would have been able to do if I just kind of said it.
Yes, I love this. I'm totally like, after this, I'm going to go out and like do some research.
I'm gonna find the video from Adam and I'll post it in the chat.
Awesome. That would be awesome. I wanted to also, I've been kind of like reading all the chats, and I wanted to say I really liked Elizabeth Heller's not being afraid to be difficult. And I am also going to ask you to spin that. And how would you say that if you wouldn't use the word difficult? Because it kind of goes back to my whole conversation about what words we use to describe ourselves. And I think that, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you on the spot, Elizabeth, but yeah, I think we need to like take those words like difficult, aggressive, bossy, whatever, and continually in our minds, like flip that script. What is a positive that means the same thing that you're trying to do?
Persistent, I guess, or just like, if I think something needs to change,
yes,
to just, even if people can be, rub up the wrong way about that.
Yeah.
Some of those us here have noticed some of that. But if I'm confident in how if I know what the right answer is, or if I have more experience on something, that even if those people are, above me in the whatever thing, that, that I have to remind myself that, they hired me as an expert because that's what we do.
Yeah. I think I think that's exactly it. And I think that that's part of the self-talk that we need to do is, because that's my first reaction is, oh, I'm going into this being difficult. And I need to tell myself, no, you're not being difficult. They asked you to do this because you know what you're doing and you have expertise in this. So you're actually doing your job. And what do I need to do my job? In this case, apparently I need to be a little bit more assertive and like make that happen. I love this. The fake it till you make it, I've noticed that a few times in the list, and I was really curious. Is it really faking it?
I don't believe it is faking it. I think it's just we kind of either, or from my personal experience, I'm one that likes to come in and like kind of read the room or learn people. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to mold my personality to accurately or effectively adapt to these individuals that I'm going to be working with. So it's not necessarily like faking it, because yesterday I had a conversation. It's like, okay, do I be nice or do I play nice? And then that's when you figure out like, okay, what's the difference between being nice and playing nice? And then you have to merge those together. So it may come off as faking to begin with, but after a while, you kind of let it go in your heart, and then it becomes a natural, mutual thing, hopefully, anyway.
Yeah. I think too, for me, I say fake it till you make it all the time, but I also like to think about it as learning. Like, I'm learning this thing. And yeah, I might not know the right answer right now, but I don't know. And I would be interested to hear what other people have to say. Like, again, I use that phrase all the time, but I question whether that's really the right way to approach it. And maybe we need to do another script flip.
I think we do, because
Yeah.
it's really that the words that you use to tell your story and your self-talk. And, you know, if you tell yourself you're faking it, then there's doubt. But if you tell yourself, you know, I know what I'm doing, and I'm, you know, I might be stretching it a little bit, or, you know, reaching a little bit into the unknown, that's okay. I'm learning and I'm expanding my horizons, and I'm, you know, expanding my network and petting my cat. Sorry, her timing is
The cat. I'm like,
the afternoon cat. But, and that's why, I mean, this one guy who did some seminars for us a few years ago, his thing was fake it till you become it. And I like that a little bit better, but I still, yeah, I mean, I get away from saying you're faking it, because you're not, because we are very capable people.
I guess what I say when I'm saying that to myself is like, basically, if I'm nervous about something, giving myself a pep talk and like winding myself up. And then usually by the time I'm halfway through the presentation or the conversation, I'm like, yes, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been fantastic. I think this has been such a fantastic conversation. I'm just like, but there are a few housekeeping things that need to happen, and I want to make sure to turn it back to Jamie and Priyanka for the housekeeping and whatever else you would like to do in the last few minutes.
So we had a few things I wanted Jen Facilis give us a very brief thing. We're going to, some of you may not know, but we're going to start a book club, and Jen's going to head that up. So I'm going to have her give a real brief mention on that. Go ahead, Jen.
Real brief. It's been crazy. I haven't done anything about it, but I still want to do it. And so I know there's a lot of people that probably haven't heard about this yet. So I'm throwing it out there that we are going to start a book club, low pressure book club. And I don't know, by the end of the year, maybe I would like to send out like a survey to see for book suggestions and stuff like that. But gosh darn it, it's been nuts. But after the AGIC symposium, some stuff will let up. So look for future emails about that.
And if you have some great tips and you've been in a book club before, Jen, pop your email address in the chat so people can get a hold of you and maybe give you some help.
Awesome.
Okay, so the other thing we want to say before we wrap up, because we're getting close to our time here, the next Mugs and Mornings, for those of you that have never attended a Mugs and Mornings, it's usually the last Friday morning of the month at 8 a.m. Arizona time, which is now the same as Pacific. And we just do a very informal Zoom thing like this and have like one little question to talk. We meet each other and chat on a topic, and it's not always, a lot of times, most of the times, right, Priyanka? It's not GIS related, but it's something that is positive and fun, and we have a good time and you meet a lot of fun, cool people. So you're more than welcome to join. And the next one is going to be during the week of the AGIC Symposium, which is the week of October 25th to the 29th. So the Mugs of Mornings will be on the 29th. And the only catch with that is that you have to register for the conference. It's $40 for the full conference if you want to attend, $20 for students, or if you're not going to attend the conference, you don't have to pay to come to the Mugs of Mornings or the other user groups. There's a free option. You just register. It's called limited access, I think, and you'll be able to also attend. You'll be also to jump and see the plenary presentations for the conference, just none of the other sessions, and except for the user groups that are all on Friday. So there's us, Mugs of Mornings, the best one that you're going to want to go to on the Friday morning. There's the Phoenix Geo group is going to meet then too. So there's a Phoenix area one. The Tucson GIS Co-op will be meeting then. There's a Northern Arizona group. I think those are the other three. I think that's it. So anyway, so be glad to see you guys all then. Priyanka, I'm going to turn over to you for everything I missed.
No, you nailed it all, except I would just would say that maybe with Eva and Karen's permission, we can share their presentation with everybody here who attended, if that's okay with you ladies. And I really, everything that Eva and Karen, whatever you said today, I needed to hear that. And I love the comments and everybody's participation. So truly, thank you for this fantastic learning opportunity. And just kind of like I said, just to hear you say that out loud validated like a lot of us and how we feel, especially in the workforce. So thank you very much.
Yes, please thank our Eva and Karen for giving up their time and doing these fabulous presentations to get this conversation started. Can't thank you guys enough for your time for this. So
thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, and with that, I guess we have 5 minutes. We might give you 5 minutes of your day back, unless somebody, Karen or Eva, you want to have any last minute thing you want to say to everybody before we zip off.
Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I loved hearing everyone's comments and stories. It was wonderful.
Right. Okay, well, thanks everybody. Go out and self-advocate, use those strategies.
Please let us know when you do, and so we can cheer you on.
Share them. Yes.